Okay, this chapter is called A Sighting. A few weeks later, after Claude had dropped him off way up in the marshes again, Oswald had quite a start. He had been lost in his work and had not heard it coming, but when he looked up, there was a boat sitting not more than 5 feet in front of him. The dark-skinned man in the boat was staring at him with a look that made his blood run cold. After a long moment, he slowly began to paddle away, never saying a word. When Claude came back, Oswald described the man with blue-green eyes and silver hair to him. Oh, wow, he sounds beautiful. And silver hair to him and asked if he knew who he was. Claude asked if the man had a net in the back of his boat. Oswald said he did. Claude nodded. I have a pretty good idea who it was, all right. Who? I can't say for sure, but I think you might have just had yourself an up-close look at Julian Lapon. The Creole? Sounds like him. He didn't look too friendly, I can tell you that. No, he wouldn't. I didn't say anything. It's best that you didn't. You never know which way he's liable to jump. What should I do if he comes back? Oh, he won't. Believe me. He doesn't want a thing to do with any of us. If he could just pick up his side of the river and move to Louisiana, he would. And Claude was right. Oswald did not see him again. As the days got warmer, Patsy would sometimes go out with Claude and Oswald to the marshes and sit with Oswald for hours while he painted. One day he looked over and he said, Hey Patsy, what are you going to be when you grow up? Do you know yet? She thought about it. Maybe, I don't know. Well, is there anything you like to do? I like to play with Jack. I like birds. Ah, he said. Well, maybe you can be a veterinarian one day. Do you know what a veterinarian is? No, sir. It's a doctor who takes care of animals and birds. Would you like that? Yes, I would. Could I be a real doctor? Sure, if you want to bad enough, you can. Really? Could Jack come and see me? Absolutely. Her eyes suddenly lit up. If I was a doctor, maybe I could fix his wings so he could fly so good that the hawks and owls wouldn't catch him and eat him. Maybe you could. Then Oswald handed Patsy a small picture he had drawn for her of a large white crane wearing glasses, tap shoes, and a top hat, carrying a walking stick under his wing. Underneath was written, For Patsy, Mr. Ichabod Crane, putting on the Ritz. I'm sorry, that shouldn't be as funny as it was, but he named the crane Ichabod Crane. That's funny to me. Sorry. That night when she came home, Frances was at the sewing machine, busy making borders for the potholders, and Patsy said, Mrs. Cleaverton, guess what I'm going to be when I grow up? Oh, I just wouldn't have any idea. She sounds like my grandma, just by the way, just saying, like, I feel like I've had this conversation with my grandma, and I can just hear her. Oh, I just wouldn't have any idea. Guess. Well, let's see. A teacher? Said Frances. No. A cowboy? No, she laughed. Do you want me to tell you? Yes. The girl's eyes lit up. A bird doctor. A bird doctor? Oh my, where did you come up with that? Mr. Campbell. He said if I wanted to bad enough, I could. He said all you have to do is want something really, really bad, and if it's supposed to, it will happen. That was a hard sentence to get out. He did? Yes. He said he always wanted to paint, and he wished really, really hard, and now he's doing it. Patsy showed her the picture Oswald had done for her that day. Oh, that is very good, Frances said. He just gets better and better. He's just getting better and better, isn't he? Your Aunt Mildred should see this. She gave her back the picture. You like Mr. Campbell, don't you? Yes, ma'am. He's funny. After Patsy went to bed, Frances thought about what Mr. Campbell had told Patsy and realized he might be right. She must have wanted a child really badly, because she got one. Now she found herself actually praying that Patsy's father would never come back and take her away. And she knew it was wrong to pray for something like that, but she couldn't help it. I mean, I wouldn't either. That girl sounds so sweet. Alright, the next chapter is called The Stranger. It was a warm, humid day in late May when a black car drove up to the front of the store and parked. Roy was behind the counter by the cash register, laughing and telling Oswald that that when he had come in that morning, Jack had his foot stuck in a fly swatter. Betty Kitchen was over in the produce department examining the potatoes. Of course she is. When the man in the white shirt and dark shiny pants walked in. Oh wait, Betty Kitchen. I'm sorry. I was thinking Mildred. I don't know why. Sorry. When the man in the white shirt and dark shiny pants walked in and stood looking around the store, Roy looked up. Can I help you find something? The man wiped his brow and the back of his neck with a handkerchief and said, Yeah, I'll take something cold to drink if you have it. It's a hot one out there. Roy pointed to the drink box. Help yourself. Thanks, the man said. Roy don't know why, but he had a strange feeling about the guy. So he looked out the window and saw that his car was from Montgomery, the state capital, and it had an official state seal on the door. This guy was not lost or just stopping in for a drink. He was here on some sort of official business. While the man was looking in the box with his back turned, Roy slowly walked around and stood in front of the photograph taped against the side of the cash register. The man came over with his drink. I wonder if you could help me out. I'm trying to locate a Mrs. Tammy Suggs. I understand that she and her family used to live around here. When Betty Kitchen heard the name Suggs, she started throwing potatoes in her bag a mile a minute. Roy leaned his back up against the cash register, crossed his arms, and thought out loud. Suggs. Nope, doesn't ring a bell. In the meantime, Oswald had floated away from the cash register back into the store and was pretending to be looking for something on the shelf. Roy took a toothpick from out of his pocket, looked at it, and then put it in the corner of his mouth and calmly asked. Everybody's trying so hard to be nonchalant. I just can't help but laugh at it. Why are you trying to locate this Suggs woman? Any special reason? The man said, I'm really looking for the little girl that we were told she has in her possession. All of a sudden, Jack started running around his plastic wheel and ringing his bells like crazy, as if he too understood the danger of the moment. The man continued, I'm looking on behalf of the father. He took out a piece of paper in his pocket and read, a James Douglas Casey, who left her in custody of the Suggs family. We have this area on file as their last known location. Said Roy and turned around. Miss Kitchen, does the name Suggs ring a bell with you? Never heard of them, Betty said as she moved on to the squash. Roy called out to the back of the store. Hey, Mr. Campbell, do you know of any Suggs family that used to live around here? Had a little girl with them? Oswald, who had been standing frozen in one spot, staring at a can of pork and beans, said, Suggs? No, the only family that might have been them moved to Mexico. I think they were going to Juarez, or was it Cuernavaca? One of those places down there. I probably just butchered that. Mexico, the man said. Are you sure they said Mexico? Yes, said Oswald, picking up a can of butter beans and pretending to read the label. They told me they weren't coming back either. Some trouble with the law or something. Said the man. About that time, Claude came in the door carrying a bucket of fish, and Roy immediately said, Oh, hello, Mr. Underwood. How are you today? And cleared his throat. Maybe you can help us out. This gentleman here is looking for a girl that lived up in the back of the woods with a family named Suggs. Mr. Campbell remembers there was a family back there with a little girl that took off and went to Mexico, Juarez, or Cuernavaca. Isn't that right, Mr. Campbell? That's right, said Oswald, who was now at the breakfast cereal section. Claude had figured out something was wrong the minute Roy called him Mr. Underwood. He put the bucket of fish up on the counter and said, I hate to disagree with you, Oswald, but I heard those folks were talking about, say they were heading out to Canada. The man looked at him. Canada? Claude took off his cap and scratched his head. Yeah, as I recall, they said they were going to Quebec. Well, maybe you're right, said Oswald, picking up a box of Blue Diamond stove matches. I knew it was somewhere that began with a Q. Oh, man. Cuernavaca is a C. And oh my god, that's funny. Claude said, no, wait a minute. Now that I think about it, it could have been Mexico. I know it was one of those places, but if I were you, I'd try looking in Mexico first. Oh, brother, the man sighed. By the time I go through all the red tape down there, the kid will be grown. So, said Roy, as casually as he could, even managing a yawn. Father wants the girl back? The man took a swig of his Coke and shook his head. No, not really. Father's dead. Fell off the back of a truck a couple of months ago. Grandmother claims she's too old to take care of the little girl, so she signed her over to us. And now all I have to do is find her. Who is us? Asked Roy. The state of Alabama. She's an official ward of the state now. At that moment, Betty Kitchen glanced out the window and saw Patsy coming down the street, headed straight for the front door. Betty immediately grabbed her sack of groceries and swept past the men at the cash register. I'll pay you tomorrow, she said, and was out the door. With her sack in one arm, she snatched Patsy up off the ground with the other and headed her back home to Francis in less than 5 seconds. Betty had not been an emergency room nurse for nothing. She could move fast when she had to. The man in the store, who had missed the entire episode, continued to complain about his job. I waste half my life running up and down the roads trying to track these people down, and he stopped mid-sentence. What are those bells I'm hearing? Roy said, Oh, it's just a bird I've got back there. Oh, he said. Say, said Roy, just out of curiosity, what will happen to her when you do find her? Well, he said, looking around at the mounted fish and the animals on the wall, being she has no other living relatives, she'll most likely be sent to a state home until she's 18. Oswald flinched when he heard that. Just the thought of Patsy being raised in a state home almost made him sick to his stomach. The man walked over, looked into the bucket, and said, Nice fish. He then put his empty bottle up on the counter and sighed again. Well, thanks for your help, but from what you fellas tell me, it doesn't look like that I'll be finding that girl anytime soon. You try tracking down somebody in Mexico or Canada. He then asked Roy what he owed for the Coke. Nothing, said Roy. I'm always happy to accommodate a government man. Much obliged, he said, and handed Roy his card. My name is Brent Boone, and the number's on the bottom. Call me if you hear anything. Yeah, we sure will, Mr. Boone. Boone walked out the door, muttering to himself. Mexico, of all the damn places. He then turned around at the door and said, Well, wish me luck, fellas. God knows I'll need it. Yes, said Roy. Good luck. And they all watched him drive away. Roy picked up the phone to call Francis. As far as he was concerned, from that day on, Patsy was officially theirs. And Oswald walked home that night grinning from ear to ear. Patsy Casey was her name. She was Irish, just like him. Aw, that's so cute! I love that he loves that little girl so much. Aw. And remember, I just remember. But yeah, remember that Oswald only pretty much thinks that he's Irish because of the way that he looks with the freckles and the red hair and the pastiness and just in general the way that his face looks, kind of just assumes that he's Irish. Which coincidentally so am I. So I think that's pretty funny. That's nice.